Max, welcome back. We're about to dive straight into episode 5 of When the Phone Rings because we've got a lot of ground to cover here. So remember, with these deep dives and recaps, there's going to be spoilers galore. So watch on if you've already seen episode 5 or if you still just don't care. First, before we dig in, just story-wise, I love the bookend POVs we've been getting at the ending and beginning of each episode. How each one will end with a cliffhanger or mic drop from Hong-Gi-Ju's point of view, and then it flips to Pak Sun's point of view at the beginning of the next episode. And this episode starts off on the same accord. So our boy is on the elevator at the Chungwoon Daily News 7th anniversary party. I had originally thought that from the last recap, he just didn't want to be there, and apparently that's probably a little bit true, but what's actually on his mind is he's still replaying the revelation that he had learned the day before, and that's Hong-Gi-Ju talks. And I also think, side note, I think he might have followed Hong-Gi-Ju up on the elevator because she came up on an elevator by herself before this elevator, the elevator that he rode in on, came up. So it makes it look like he was not only keeping an eye on her, but also, to also show that they're not together, but he's still like, I have to keep my eye on you, something's not right. So he gets off the elevator before the doors close on him completely, but as soon as he exits it seems like he's looking around to see if he can spot her, and then he notices that her mother is rushing her off towards that room at the end of the hall, a room he does wait outside of, overhearing Hong-Gi-Ju's mother laying into her. When the witch steps out of the room, she jumps as she almost runs into Pak Sun waiting outside, asking when he got there. He offers his arm to escort her to the party, saying how he was curious about Hong-Gi-Ju and why won't she speak. Her mother explains that she's been in shock since the car accident when she was little. Pak Sun is highly suspicious because it's been 20 years and his wife is still in shock from a car accident. Honestly, I thought the accident in question was something bigger, like someone setting a fire to their house or them being a part of an explosion. Not to say that car accidents are, of course, not life-threatening because people lose their lives about that all the time, but I thought this was a legit deliberate threat to the family that really triggered and made her stay quote-unquote silent from that. A car accident can also be very scarring to a little girl for sure, but not to be selectively mute for 2 decades makes zero sense here. The witch, because she doesn't deserve to be called by her name, is starting to get cagey as our boy is poignantly staring her down as he asks these questions. She skirts around by saying that the guilt was so overwhelming. Pak Sun was like, what guilt did Hong-Gi-Ju cause the accident? She says that this accident was when Hong-Gi-Ju had lost her brother and her sister went deaf. Now, when hearing this in context, I had originally assumed that this had happened to the Pak family when Hong-Gi-Ju's mother mentions this in episode 3, but no, this is the Hong family tragedy. So the deaf sister is for sure Hong-Ina, which makes sense considering she hasn't said a single word but has texted conversation to Pak Sun and possibly the kidnapper? I don't know. Anyway, the witch says that how could Hong-Gi-Ju be okay after that and that she shouldn't be. Considering that you didn't want the child to survive sounds like something you would say, you trifling viper. At least the witch is transparent to Pak Sun, who has already seen how downright cruel she could be to her own daughter. She wonders at why he's asking all these questions. Pak Sun stands on business, reminding the witch that Hong-Gi-Ju is his wife and that she needs to be more careful on how she treats her daughter and watch what she says and does around her. Hong-Ji looks like she's about to clutch her pearls, marveling at Pak Sun coming to Hong-Gi-Ju's defense, because he's probably the one of few people in her life that's ever given a damn about her, but continuing on. He goes into the room where the party is, swallowing champagne when the mean bathroom girls and others come up to his table to talk to him. He's curious, but nah, he doesn't want to deal with them either. He looks so uncomfortable and doesn't say a word to them. He turns and notices his wife walking out the ballroom, shoulders slouched. Just when he's about to go after her, Chairman Hung calls him, asking him the question about why hasn't he decided to help his father with his campaign. And he supposed that there wasn't enough of an incentive for Pak Sun to leave his current job. Just then Pak Sun's phone rings. Probably almost thankful for it to give him an excuse to take it. But then we see the events of him getting out of the ballroom and saying my favorite line of his wife being a brand new language. So swoon-worthy. He notices that a worker at the hotel has his wife's jacket draped over her arm and asks where she got it from, which she says she got from the bathroom. Our boy is so astute, and upon looking at the elevator, he surmises that Hung Hee-ju has gone to the 9th floor. And here we are to the moment of truth. What does Park Sun suspect? Does he know that he found his kidnapper, quote unquote? It doesn't seem like he knows this at this moment, only that she's on the phone and she's standing on the bench in high heels near the ledge. Of course, she frees this dude to being caught, and he's bewildered and concerned. And how could he not clock that she's clearly holding a black phone and not her white one? I think he'll catch on later, but the baby's in shock, and so is Hung Hee-ju, who stuffs the phone into her purse as he comes towards her. She's about to slip off the bench, which causes Park Sun to race forward to catch her, and they go tumbling to the ground. After asking if she was okay, he rises first and offers to help her up, but she chooses to ignore his hand. Of course, he wasn't having any of that, and he grabs her shoulders to help her up the rest of the way. And Bae is now livid, fussing at her complete disregard for her safety by being so close to the edge. And was she trying to off herself? And he's angry for a myriad of reasons that we for sure already know of. She looks like she's shaken, but she starts to hiccup, which has him zeroing in on her again because her first hiccup makes a sound. Park Sun addresses the phone issue, asking if she was on the call. With that scoff of his, he says Hung Hee-ju can't make calls. Why were you on the phone? She mouths a response, but the culmination of everything now blatantly in his face of her standing there, keeping her hiccups and her voice quiet, knowing full well she can talk, causes him to go smooth off again. Park Sun becomes demanding, telling her to make a sound, hiccup, whatever. Just say something, because he knows she can, and he asks if he should force her. She gives him nothing, standing there quiet, and you can tell by now he's hurt that he didn't know. And perhaps because this is one more thing in his life that has been a lie, or a lie that has been kept from him, and it's from someone he thought he knew and trusted to be transparent and honest. And he says, Hung Hee-ju, how could you? Baby was so hurt. I felt for him in this scene. Before she can answer, his phone rings. Hung Hee-ju collects her purse and was about to swerve around him, but he steps into her path. He puts her jacket over her shoulders, and I love that even despite the betrayal and the hurt he feels now, his love for her is unwavering. Even in this moment, he tells her to go ahead while he answers the phone, and it's Park Do-jae saying that they were able to trace the call now that it finally went over 10 minutes, and that the trajectory of it was at the very hotel Park Sun was at. Park Do-jae is asking him, have you seen anyone that looks suspicious? And he kind of looks at the elevator and he sees that Hung Hee-ju is about to get on. It seemed like for a split second, there is a moment where he's immediately thinking like, could it be her? And then he's like, no, what could I be thinking? But then he realizes what Park Do-jae said. He's like, wait, you said that this was coming from the hotel. So that's the possibility that the kidnapper is at the hotel and his wife just got on the elevator. So there could be a good possibility that the kidnapper might try to take her again. So he has this oh crap moment. It's too late for him to catch her before the elevator closes. So he goes hustling down the stairs, all 9 flights of them, I'm assuming, to try and catch up and meet her before the kidnapper comes out and tries to take her. So Hung Hee-ju gets back downstairs looking at pictures on screens of her stepfather with all of these like charities and shaking hands with big wigs. And then she's spooked by her mother-in-law, who is asking if she's going to go ahead and go back inside to the party. When Hung Hee-ju leaves, Park Sun's mother studies each picture as she's drinking wine, a little tipsy. And she comes across Chairman Hung shaking hands with an older gentleman. And she's studying this picture very intently. Then we hear a voiceover from a man telling her that there must not be a single rusty spoon in his household, and ask her what's more important, being a mother to her son or maintaining her daughter-in-law status to him. So now we get confirmation that this man in the picture is the chairman, Park Sun's grandfather we've been hearing all about. And Park Sun's grandfather, who apparently wants nothing but perfection from his family. What does she do? She takes a mouthful of wine and she spits on the screen. So we already know that she has high disdain for this man. She abhors him for, I'm sure, the sacrifice she had to do, because she's still married to this man's son. Of course, now has had to raise this other child that's not hers. So I'm like, that's a very interesting turn of events, and I will, readdress this towards the end of my recap. So Park Sun has made it down the stairs, going to the ballroom, and he spots Hung Hee-ju just hanging out, sitting quietly in a chair. He calls Park DJ to do a roundup on the guest list and strip the voice modulator too. So after this, our couple gets home, and before Hung Hee-ju can go off to bed, Park Sun calls her and asks her if she still got that scar. She doesn't answer him, of course, but he bends down and lifts her skirt. Not to look at the mole, no. We see a scar on her knee. She's frozen in place, gripping the skirt because, yes, this is highly intimate. He comments on how when she was little, she had almost gotten bitten by a dog, and how even then, she didn't scream. And how could a young girl hold back a scream? He looks at her, measuring to see what she'll say, if anything. But he then says that she's incredible, but he wonders how long she'll hold out. So, flashback time. We see a young Hung Hee-ju, and she's reading to herself a report she had written, assumingly, about the papal transfer of power between Pope Benedict and Pope Francis when the witch comes storming into her room. She has some school papers in hand, and she kind of slams the papers over the book that Hung Hee-ju was pretending to read. So she asks her daughter, what is this? And it's probably an assignment that she had written about, what did they dream to be when they grow up. Hung Hee-ju wants to be a newscaster, which we were already told by her father in episode 2 that was what she was inspired to be. Her witch of a mother slaps her with the paper, admonishing her on how on earth can she be a newscaster when she can't speak, and that if she starts talking in front of Hung Ina, they will both be kicked out of the house because the chairman will make it so. So after this, Hung Hee-ju in tears goes running out of the house. She sees a German Shepherd in the middle of the street. She tries to go running back to the house, but she falls. And she is awaiting to be attacked by this dog, but is saved by Park Sun. He brings her to her feet, being astute even at this age, that he knows that the red mark on Hung Hee-ju wasn't the dog's doing. He encourages her to fight back regardless of who it is, and that there's always a chance for revenge. Then he does the tropey thing of giving her a piggyback ride to the house since she scraped her knee. As they walk, he stops to look at the sky and says that it's red, just like her swollen cheek. And that memory is something our current Hung Hee-ju relives, of her being a whole brand new language girl, me too. So the scene transfers when she rolls over, almost as if she's imagining he was there with her. When we pan over, it transitions over to Park Sun, who we see that he also can't sleep. And he is looking at his phone to see that it's only 12:30 in the morning. And y'all, did you notice that his lock screen photo is the sky he stared at with Hung Hee-ju after the dog incident? Oh my god. And there's more coming with this. That screenshot just cements it to me for him from get-go that he already was starting to feel some kind of way about her. Even that memory for him is still a prominent thing. But Park Sun, now being in his headspace, he goes knocking on her door, asking her to come out before he goes barging into her room as she's rising out of bed. He comes straight out and tells her that after all this time, she's done nothing but deceive him. And not to look at him like she doesn't know, because he knows everything now. Baby is feeling betrayed by her keeping the secret for 20 years. Her keeping the secret as a kid, sure, but now she's an adult. When she started living with him, she could have confided in him safely. He would have guarded that secret if that was the case, but been open with him when they moved together. Okay, let me interrupt you here, sir. Since when? You told her to keep her feelings distant, and you didn't really come at her with bestie vibes either. You were cold, unattainable, and rude from the jump. And I'm like, and this was on your wedding day. You were rude to her. So I get what you're feeling now. Valid, absolutely it is, but it doesn't excuse your hand in being a jerk from the start. If you were warm to her like you were when you were kids, she might have opened up to you if she could trust you like that. But you putting all those demands on her at the ceremony and telling her not to have feelings for you or whatever, it shut her down. And then you continue to be cold and aloof from her. So that is your fault for her not being able to open up to you. Sorry, but not sorry. Continuing on. Hung Hee-ju has been standing there calmly, nonplussed, and almost trance-like, because she's looking at him all wide-eyed as if she's not even there. When he's done unleashing his feelings, she snatches her phone and begins typing, which irritates the hell out of him. And I love Yoo Yeon-suk's acting choices here. He's already teary-eyed. He's looking around the room in frustration. And because I'm like, it seems so authentic and real as someone who's so mad at their partner and wanting to discuss it further, but trying to be patient and giving them the floor to speak. That was like probably like my favorite acting choices this episode. So then she types, "Everyone has secrets," which surprises Pak-sun to read. "Don't you have any? Something you're hiding from me?" And of course, like, he doesn't have a response because it's true. He has secrets. What can he say? With that, we soon realize that this was all his imagination. Pak-sun still has his hand on the doorknob to his room. He's still haunted by what she has done, but can't be too mad considering all the secrets he also carries. Would he ever tell her? Of course he'll have to, because eventually all this stuff is starting to unravel to where they're going to have to be transparent with each other. And also, I'm not remiss to see that Mr. Pak-sun gave his queen the biggest room in the house. See, and that's the thing, I would have already been grilling this man with questions from day one, but it just seemed like she just kept to herself, not wanting to rock the boat, trying to buy her time to get out of this marriage. But I've been like, sir, why did you give me the biggest room? He'll probably give like some kind of bogus excuse saying that, well, this is more comfortable, or, you know, this has the bigger suite, you have more clothes than I do, or whatever. I'm sure it's going to be something stupid like that. So in the next scene, Kang Young-woo is rallying off the finalists for the interpreters. Each of them will be contacted individually and will start working in their office tomorrow. Pak-sun, with him hotly wearing glasses, is quiet, and he is out of it. When realizing that Pak-sun is paying little attention, Kang Young-woo starts having a little meltdown on how he's put so much in this report, but Pak-sun seems like he might be dismayed about it. Pak-sun is like, everything is good, but I just need to take a break. But after the two men meet in the bathroom, after Kang Young-woo is talking over with his wife about, you know, his health issues, needing to take more vitamins, and being very frank and open and discussing things with his wife, Pak-sun tells Kang Young-woo that they need to have a chat in a field away from listening ears. So Pak-sun earnestly asks Kang Young-woo if he tells his wife everything, that there's no secrets between them. Kang Young-woo doesn't believe that there's any lies or deceit going on between him and his wife, but wonders why Pak-sun is asking. Perhaps his wife is hiding emergency funds behind Pak-sun's back? When Pak-sun says no, Kang Young-woo is like, that's relief, as long as it's not about money. So Kang Young-woo is like, when it comes to relationships, there has to be space and not nitpick and criticize every little thing in it. And mentions that it will be tough with Pak-sun's personality. Pak-sun asks, what's wrong with it? Kang Young-woo comes out with it, saying how Pak-sun strives for perfection. Even with marriage, it still takes effort, and that he can start by calming his temper. I don't doubt also that his perfection derives from his family browbeating it into him, especially when they wanted him to be something or someone he wasn't. And of course, his grandfather also wanting perfection. So next scene, Hung Hee-ju and her colleagues are weighing around her phone to see if she gets the position. She gets a message, ironically enough, at 10 o'clock in the morning, unlike her 10 o'clock phone calls with her husband. She reads it and sits there and says nothing. Her boss leans over to read it and she passed. They're celebrating on her behalf while she's sitting there in disbelief, tears forming in her eyes. Her boss commends her for working so hard and that she should tell her family the good news while her colleagues get drinks and possibly a cake. And I think it affects her so much because that is already a tough position to get into. And so many people in her life have categorized her as not being enough, including her own mother and her father-in-law. That they only saw her as a stepping stone, a tool to be utilized, or an albatross around their necks. But who could she tell this good news to? Her dad? You would think she would have sent that message out to Ji Sang-woo, but she doesn't. The next person she considers is Pak-sun. So she types a message to him that she passed, then erases it. Then types if she got this position free and clear without any favoritism. And then she erases that. She ponders why this is so difficult to compose such a simple message to her husband of all people. Because of the parameters he set down in your marriage to where you haven't been able to have that open conversation. Even when they were kids, They were still guarded because they each, by this age, already had a lot of secrets that they had to contend with on their own. And so that followed them into adulthood to where they couldn't really be as open with each other. So she looks at emojis and realizing that's not a good idea either. But one accidental press and send later, her husband has just gotten a heart eyes emoji from her. Now she's agonizing on what she just did. And now our boy has seen it. Looks like almost immediately. Also, I noticed that her profile image is also a rosy sky picture. Just like his on his phone, just like the sky they saw when they were little after the dog incident. I just love the little Easter eggs that you find in these episodes. It's fantastic. Now, he's wondering and befuddled in the middle of this meeting that Kang Young-woo is talking throughout it about inviting the interpreters to dinner the next day. He also suggests that they would usually do a company retreat, which would definitely be the better option, but with the workloads and scheduling that's been going on, especially with Pak-sun, it'll be easier to pull off a welcome dinner. So, getting Pak-sun's attention because he's in emoji love heaven over here. He's like, what did you say? Did you mention a sales retreat? Kang Young-woo is like, no, not with your busy schedule. Pak-sun says that since these were the first interpreters at the president's office, that they need to do this right. They need to do a photo op for the media and do this company retreat. Is this weekend good for everyone? And also, let's make this an overnight trip so I can romance my wife. So outside this meeting, Boo is still analyzing this emoji, almost about to smile, but he starts to type out, what is this? This came out of nowhere, and he deletes it. Hong Hee-ju is biting on her fingers nervously, wondering if she should delete it. Pak-sun types again. What does this mean? Explain yourself. What are you, her dad? And he asks if it sounds intense. Yes, sir, it does. At least he's realizing how it's sounding. It took some years of realization, but we're here now. He finally responds, which Hong Hee-ju drops her phone, unsure she can look at it. But what does it say? Congrats on passing. Yay! Our babies are doing this romance thing. Awkwardly. Very awkwardly. But they're doing it. But you gotta start somewhere. So Pak-sun and his crew go out to lunch at this branded restaurant because they keep flashing the logo at you. He's still waiting on a response to his text, and she finally gives it, saying thank you. It's thanks to you. The look on his face just reads, score. It's so sweet and cute until old Pak-sun rears his head. He responds by saying, nope, it's not. Refrain from making any statements that could be misunderstood. Let me be clear, there wasn't any special treatment. Like, who are you, her boss? Well, yeah, kind of. He's about to be. But y'all also knew each other from childhood. And you're now her husband. All that had preceded him being her boss. But he does wonder aloud if he was too stiff. Yes, but Kang Young-woo runs with it saying that it's not my food. You must have weak teeth. Hum Dude is about to get fired if he keeps up with these stray comments. Like, it is ridiculous, but I get he's comic relief. But was she bothered by the comment? No, because I think Hong Hee-ju just knows how he is, and so she offers to buy him a meal. Atta girl. But poor Pak-sun is again musing to himself aloud, happy that she offered to treat him, and his coworkers just look at him perplexed. It's an off day, just let him have it. The man has cycled through all his emotions in 24 hours. Let him have it. He does ask aloud what to get someone who just recently got a job. Kang Young-woo is like the latest cell phone, tablet, laptop, which Hong Hee-ju already has. They spread ideas around either practical or not, or sentimental or not. Partner Day does come up with a great idea about getting that person a new suit for their new job. Bingo. So Pak-sun sends her a picture of a storefront telling her to go there by 6 o'clock. Next scene, our second leads show up. They drive up to a gate on a property that's locked and overgrown. Now Yuri is like, you're trying to go in there? Ji Sung-woo? Yep. He goes along the fence to see if there's any weak spots in it for them to get through, and he finds it. Where they're at is the house he had gone to when he was little. Everything is covered in sheets, and you can tell that no one has inhabited this house in a long time. Ji Sang-woo, who is being recorded by Nayuri, says he remembers a great portrait above the fireplace and remembers a hand with a huge dragon ring on it. Nayuri asks about the room he had played in every day. They descend the stairs into the basement where they come across a door that has been locked, which was the room where the boys stayed. Ji Sang-woo says that he was positive he saw it that day. And it flashes back to little Ji Sang-woo getting his fingers licked by a cat. The masked kid asked if he wanted to play. Ji Sang-woo was like, play? With what? The masked kid unsheaths a knife and essentially says to butcher the cat, which the kid proceeds to Norman Bates his way with the cat. The act sends little Ji Sang-woo flying out the room, and he never comes back. Older Ji Sang-woo says the way that the little boy spoke sounded so innocent, and he said words about what he wanted to do to the cat as if it meant nothing, because it didn't. But it gives us clarity because guess what? We now know who the little child is, who is now the psychopathic kidnapper who also likes to blow up cats and has a giant chip on his shoulder against the man who took his place. And his family hid him away because he was a blemish his grandfather couldn't stand for. And I wasn't sure if this was due to an accident that he was hidden away at this house, or if it was because his psychotic behavior became apparent at his young age. Now we know. We learn more when the second leads are driving back that several children went missing after being adopted. He didn't learn that until he became an adult, but that's still an unsolved case. Or maybe a case that has been swept under the rug because of the Park's influences to keep it secret. So Nayuri is curious about why he kept a case like this close to his chest. It's been 20 years and you're still digging into it. He mentions that he wanted to wait until his YouTube channel to grow big enough to where there was enough people to really broadcast this to and for them to pay attention. But now with this show, he'll have an even bigger platform to do it on. So Nayuri apologizes to him for telling Park-sun about him growing up in an orphanage by mistake. Ji Sang-woo wonders what Park-sun wanted to know about regarding him, where Nayuri says that, oh, it's just this and that. Then she gets a notification on the phone where she shares the good news that Hong Hee-ju will be joining the president's office. News Hong Hee-ju didn't share with him. And also, I think he also knows with that, she's also going to be working with Park-sun. So Hong Hee-ju gets to the clothing store where she meets with the attendant there who has already gotten details from the spokesperson's office, or rather Park-sun. The attendant already knows the details about Hong Hee-ju's new job and that a nice neutral color would be best, and asks if Hong Hee-ju would like to try it on. Well, someone comes into the store, Hong Ina. She doesn't see Hong Hee-ju go to the back first to try on the suit, while Hong Ina is there to try on this dress. What heightens my anxiety about this even more is that Park-sun also decides to pull up about the same time. So the two sisters keep missing each other as they go in and out of their respective changing rooms. The navy blue suit though looks great on Hong Hee-ju, practically a perfect fit. And her husband thinks so too, him saying as much and saying that they'll take it. She comes out after changing, coming up to Park-sun as he's eyeing something. He wants her to try this one on too, this one being the same dress that Hong Ina tried on. But when Hong Ina, who was trying on the different sides of the dress, came out, she overheard Park-sun's voice. But isn't she deaf? And it seemed like she also heard what the attendant had asked about her changing the dress size before she went into the changing room and Hong Hee-ju came out. But she heard the attendant. She apparently heard Park-sun. So it seems that she can hear just fine. But anyway, she just misses them leaving out. So our two growing lovebirds walk together, and Park-sun asks why didn't she try on the dress. She says she doesn't have to try it on to know. And he's like, know what? She skirts around that, saying that she'll wear the suit and that they should go have dinner. But Park-sun presses her, and he's working on that whole no secrets thing between them. And he asks her again, what do you know? She admits that the dress is too flashy for her taste. And I love that he sighs too when he's frustrated, because yet again, she's typing out her response on the phone when all he wants her to do is talk to him. Fight in him for real, as her real, full, and true self. But as he looks around, he notices something as he's waiting for her to reply. And she continues with, I don't have a place to wear it, and it's just not for me. He asks, well, what about that one? And they're in front of a store, and they see a dress that's really catching her eye. So while he waits for her to change, he gets a call from Park Do-jae. He says that the analysis of the modulated voice isn't complete, but that there is something strange to report, and that the caller is actually a woman. Park Sun asks if he's sure, and Park Tae-jae confirms that there is a possibility of an accomplice or even a decoy, which means essentially using someone else's voice who isn't the actual perpetrator. Park Sun strikes down any pre-recordings or script readings since the conversation he's had with the caller has been live back and forth conversations. He asks to continue with the analysis as his eyes analyzes his wife stepping out with that dress on. His phone drops to his side, forgotten, because he is entranced by what he sees. When he sees her expression, which seems like she's unsure on how she looks in it, he says, "Hung Hee-ju, underestimating yourself is a bad habit, but I'd like to help you break that habit. What do you think?" I know hubby thinks his wife looks beautiful in a dress befitting her. What's not befitting is who's spying on them from the outside. Hung Ina is watching their stare down, and her eyes kind of narrows, like how dare you be happy and you're going to suffer narrows. So our boo-boos, they're going out to eat, but the place they go to has the menu outside, and it looks to be very, very expensive. And I don't doubt Park Sun can afford it, but since this is on Hung Hee-ju's dime, he doesn't want to bankrupt her over a meal. He says he wants jjajangmyeon, and she's like, "With sweet and sour pork?" But as soon as he reads her response, messages start popping up from Ji Sang-woo with emojis and a text congratulating her on her new job. Upon seeing it, it's funny how Park Sun's face goes from happy man to wanting to commit crimes. So Ji Sang-woo offers her wine, and Na Yuri is there to celebrate too. Hung Hee-ju was about to wave him off when Park Sun, who's leaning over her phone, says, "Why don't you go? But you're going with me." So Na Yuri, Ji Sang-woo, and Hung Hee-ju cheers her happy moment. Then they turn to look at Mr. Dark Cloud at the table to join in. Each couple is sitting by each other on each side of the table, and it's awkward, and they're eating appetizers in silence. Ji Sang-woo, who looks already disappointed by not being told of her new job, is also wondering how the two of them came in together. Park Sun was truthful, saying that she offered to buy him dinner. Ji Sang-woo, who now gets to feel jealous and highly inquisitive, says, "Oh, did she? Why?" Park Sun says, "Why can't she?" Ji Sang-woo, "Not without a reason." My, how the tables have turned. Now it's Ji Sang-woo charging in here with all these questions, flipping the script from the table scene we saw in episode 3. Park Sun quid pro quos. "Why are y'all together?" Ji Sang-woo says they came back from covering a site for a show that they're working on. Ergo, that's our reason. You still haven't told me what y'all's are. He also goes on to say that Na Yuri told him that Park Sun had been asking about him. Park Sun flat out asks what the story is about, kind of ignoring him. So Na Yuri tells him that it's about a case of missing children from an orphanage. Ji Sang-woo swings in with essentially, "We can't discuss that with you. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but we can't discuss this with you. Again, you didn't answer my question. What's your interest in me?" Who comes in to distract? Hung Hee-ju asking Ji Sang-woo if he wanted to congratulate her. Ji Sang-woo is like, "Yes, you're right. My fault." Hee-ju, interpreter for the office of the president. "That is something to celebrate, but didn't you want to do something else?" We get a flashback of Hung Hee-ju with bangs, who looks like she's going into her broadcast station at college to apply for the position of newscaster. And she probably figures that her mother wouldn't find out about her going after her dream in some way. She goes up to the switchboard and a song starts playing, and she puts on the headphones and starts swaying and dancing to the music. And someone's asleep off to the side. It's Ji Sang-woo, who fell asleep with his Intro to Psychiatry book, and he wakes up. He gets up and he sees Hung Hee-ju through the glass, and you can see why he's got a crush on her, because she's so cute and adorable as she's in the zone and feeling carefree for the first time in her life. And I love how the screensaver on the computer behind her is the old school bubble screensaver. So there's like a happy, bubbly moment for her. She turns around and she sees Ji Sang-woo staring at her, and it scares her. She puts the headphones back down, trying to get the song to switch off, but ends up sending it to the speakers. And he turns it off and he sees her with that fuzzy, romantic, golden hue aura around her. And with that swallow of his, he's immediately smitten. Well, Park Sun didn't like that. The look he gives Ji Sang-woo back in the present day denotes that as he tosses back champagne. Ji Sang-woo says how they listen to music in the broadcast room often. Na Yuri is invested, asked if anything happened between the two of them in college. She could sense that something might have. But Poxon, though, and it comes off so abrasively, telling her that she has bad sense and she's known for that. Down, boy. Like, you're really showing your feelings here. Now Yuri's like, oh really, I got bad sense? Dude, I got receipts, facts, and that a college broadcast room is perfect for flirting. Uh-oh. Poxon asked if the two of them flirted. Now Yuri asks, like, what are you asking for? They totally did. Why else would Hee-ju be in the broadcast room? It wasn't to be a newscaster. Ji Sang-woo says that she could be one. How could she not? Now Yuri stumbles like, but how can she be? The stony faces she's getting from Ji Sang-woo, and I'm assuming Poxon too, has her nervous girl giggling over there. She stammers out, of course she can. What happened was, she can be for sure be a newscaster. This must have always been her dream. Trying to compensate in any way she can. Poxon asked Ji Sang-woo why he brought this up. She's slated to be at the president's office with me, but why are you bringing up her dream now? Are you trying to rain on her parade? Ji Sang-woo is like, oh, you think I am? Hong Hee-ju intervenes, telling them to stop it. But she signs with Ji Sang-woo interpreting that yes, she wanted to be a newscaster, but now she's happy to be a sign language interpreter for the presidential office. She's angry, probably at both of them, but probably more at her husband than her friend. Hong Hee-ju then gets up from the table and takes a break. When she leaves the room, she gets a message from Hong Ina, of course she did, saying it's been a while and asking how she's been. Oh, now you care. Okay. Seems like you only care when you want something, but whatever. She looks frozen to the spot at getting that message. After that, it seems like she's been gone a while from the table. Ji Sang-woo offers to go and look for her when Poxon gets up, asking if anyone wants ice cream. In other words, I'll look for her. You sit right back down. Now Yuri pipes up with wanting ice cream or whatever. Y'all ain't getting ice cream, just letting you know that. Poxon rushes out looking for her. He sees two sisters walking down the street, the younger sister telling her Oni about her day at school. Another flashback. We get back to a young Poxon ringing the doorbell at night. After Hong Hee-ju opens the door for him, he's sitting at a table with her and Hong Ina. He asks Hong Hee-ju why is she there, and she says she'll pass along whatever he says to her sister. Poxon says that he heard that Ina was deaf. Why don't you ever want to wear hearing aids or learn how to sign? What Hong Hee-ju tells her, he's looking forward to studying math with you. Girl. Poxon asks Hong Ina to solve the math problems, which she fails most of them, and is falling asleep at the table when he grades her. Poxon says he'll pour water on her head if she makes another mistake. I see that is just his default even at this young age. That's just how he is. So what does Hong Hee-ju translate it to? Solve it again, Ina. You can do better. He snatches the notebook away from her, and upon reading what she wrote, he could see what she was doing, and perhaps at this age, he saw just how special she is. Little Hee-ju is not only being the interpreter for her sister, but also for Poxon, to where he's not coming off so harshly and softening him in a way. So she's a translator for him too. So back to present day, Poxon is brought out of his reverie by his usual 10 o'clock phone call. He tells the kidnapper that he was glad he called and that he has a question. Hong Hee-ju is watching him outside a convenience store across the street. Poxon asks if the caller has heard Hong Hee-ju's voice before. A truck conveniently pulls up, blocking Poxon from seeing her. She says that Hong Hee-ju can't speak, so how could she, or the kidnapper, know? He asks then, do you know why she can't speak? That the accident that caused Hong Ina to lose her hearing, and that she refused to ever learn how to sign or to wear hearing aids. All of that points to Hong Hee-ju being that villain as her human translation device. And that's essentially what she did become. And of course, with Hong Hee-ju living under the same roof as Chairman Hung's deaf daughter, Hong Hee-ju was forced to also be quiet. And he's like, that was such a ridiculous conclusion that he came to, but he can't find another reason behind it. And I'm like, dude, there isn't one. And I think he pretty much hit it exactly on the nose. That's exactly what had happened. Hong Hee-ju says that you mentioned before that you'll never give Hong Hee-ju up. But if Hong Ina came back into the picture, would you still feel the same? He confirms yes, he would. And she asks, why though? Do you have a sense of responsibility towards her? And he says no. Sympathy? Poxon gets the okay to cross the street towards her side. The truck moves on to where Hong Hee-ju sees him crossing at the last minute while he's talking. And he says, "Listen, 406, my true feelings for Hee-ju." A truck revs up, coming at him full force to run him down. He freezes, doesn't move. What does our girl do? She comes running to him and yells his name. He turns to look at her in astonishment. The first time he's heard her talk to him in her real voice, and it's his name at the worst moment. But she tackles him out the way. The truck continues to drive off, and gee, I wonder who that might be. Park Sun puts a band-aid on her scraped hand and asks if she's sure she doesn't need to go to the hospital. He's like, "You work with your hands, so you have to be more careful." Again, tie into episode 3 when she was cleaning up the glass that she had dropped. "Anyway, where did you come from? And how are you so strong to be able to tackle me like that?" Then he remembers. She spoke. He says, "I think I heard it. Your voice. Did you call my name?" She shakes her head. He says he wants to hear her voice again because he knows she said it. He says the world won't fall apart if you speak. Everything you ever wanted to say, you're free to do it, and you can say whatever you want. But she still doesn't say a word. I mean, she's been conditioned for 20 years to keep quiet to everyone else but to those who can't tell, like her dad. And plus, she probably doesn't want to deal with the myriad of questions I'm sure he will really want to ask her with all of this. So, in another scene, Hong Yi-na is wondering why her sister hasn't responded back to her text, but revisits the scene of seeing them in the clothing store, of them looking at each other, and her eyes pan over to Park Sun. So, it's like a question of, is she wanting revenge on him, or just wanting the man? Like, I'm sure we'll see these machinations in the next couple of episodes on where she is with this. Next morning, the press secretary welcomes the new interpreters into the fold. Our girl is looking snazzy in her new suit. The press secretary comes down the line to greet each, asking for their name. He gets to Hong Hee-ju, who signs her name. The press secretary is told by Kang Yu-woo about her disability, and he's like, "Well, I don't know sign language, so how are you going to communicate with the team? Will we all have to learn it?" Park Sun pipes up that he was thinking about learning it himself. But he is also taking her words to heart during her interview, that he wants to make sure that the interpreters are conveying his words accurately, but he's going to start learning it today. And I love this so much because it seems as if he's kind of telling her in no certain ways is that since she feels so uncomfortable speaking or being able to talk aloud, especially to him, then he'll get on her level to be able to talk to her in a manner that will be more comfortable for her. The press secretary likes the idea. In fact, he's also liking the idea of how many likes this will get on social media, that the spokesperson knows how to sign. So Hong Hee-ju shows him the Korean sign alphabet, but this is something he already knew, studying it in advance. He says it's not that hard, which is exactly what she had told him in her interview in the last episode. So she gives him a clipboard with a list on it, and it's 100 questions, 100 answers. He's to write down a sentence or a word he would like to know. It's like, and I also wonder if "I love you" will come into play later on. We'll see. But he writes down his first question, and we go down the list. Eventually, what the phrase he's wanting to learn is that "I look forward to working with you, Hong Hee-ju, interpreter." This scene was so sweet, and I get compensation that even though he didn't know how to sign beforehand, this scene makes up for it in spades. So the team goes out for barbecue, and there's silence at the table because it's unusual for Park Sun to attend any of their events. But was this place okay? Park Sun is like, "Yeah, but what are you doing? The meat is burning here." So Park Sun is doing the cooking, cutting up the meat, which also makes him more personable in this moment. And I'm sure he's been unapproachable even to his own staff, let alone his wife. So seeing him bending a bit is wonderful. And also, wifey is watching, so he needs to put on a good impression. Kang Young-woo is like, "Let's make a toast." And our boy signs his pleasure with working with his team. So Park Joo-jae, who took a call, comes back to the table to let Park Sun know that the voice analysis was almost complete, but malware has been detected, making the computer shut down. Most of the files are gone, but they were still able to get some results from them. Park Sun asks him if he can hear them. Park Joo-jae says yes, giving him earbuds for him to hear clearly. Hong Hee-ju, meanwhile, is in the bathroom, remembering the phone call she received the night before. While she was putting up her dress, she gets a call from an unknown caller. the kidnapper, and she already knows it's him before she can even answer it. He says, "Hey sis, so what you doing? Are you okay?" He kind of ran in front of a moving car. As we already know, the truck that was trying to run down Parkson, it was driven by him. Surprise, surprise. He says, "I thought you were getting a divorce, but it seems that you changed your mind. You won't divorce him, will you?" She asks, "What do you want? Why are you so keen on wanting me to leave him?" He's essentially like, "I want him to suffer. I want his life in shambles. Plain and simple. Do you even know him well?" And I bet you don't. Not at all. And she's like, "How well do you know him?" The kidnapper, being indignant, says, "How could she say something so hurtful?" But he says, "Trust and believe. The person who knows Parkson best is me. But hurry, sis. You're running out of time. He's going to find out your true identity soon." She also has this replay of Parkson telling her after the whole truck running him down incident that she can be open with him and talk. But she's like, "What I need to talk to you about is something you don't want to hear. He won't forgive that." And that's what she's afraid of. Another side note, now we do get confirmation that this man is Parkson. He says it in his language. It's cryptic, but it's there. And it seems that he's very mad that an imposter has been posing as him this entire time, which is why he is trying to ruin this man that we know as Parkson by any means. And I'm just like, you need to take that up with your family, your grandfather, your father, maybe even your mother, but I don't know. The jury's still out on that one. But the thing about this, you can't reason with crazy, and he's the literal dictionary definition of it. And the thing about this, him not finding out her true identity, it's too late. Parkson listens to the fragments he's got. Park Jae confirms it's a woman in her 20s. And then Parkson looks through the window and he spots his wife coming back from the bathroom, and his eyes track her. And our smart boy starts piecing together all the pieces. All this information that the caller knew wasn't information that anyone outside his family had knowledge of. Her on the phone at the party that clearly wasn't hers, and that the caller's location was narrowed down to the hotel. Him getting the video of her in the police car and hearing her speak. Her requesting to be let go of their marriage. Everything is adding up to be his wife. So he tells Park Jae he's going to send him another audio file, which means that he's probably just going to take that police video and just send the audio version without revealing the video part of it, so he can get to the confirmation that the two are a match down to a couple decimals off. So he comes back into the restaurant, and Hong Hee-joo notices the change in him, and Parkson gets loaded because he's drunk by the time they leave and is loaded into the back of his car. His colleagues are wondering at him because they're just like, yeah, this is the first time he's showed up at an event like this, and this is the first time he's gotten drunk. Is anything amiss? Park Jae shuts down any speculations about their boss, and I love him. I love ride or die characters like that, where they're just like, it's none of your business, and it isn't. So his driver gets him home, and Parkson tells him that he's fine on his own. The driver can go ahead and leave. So Hong Hee-joo arrives home in a taxi a few minutes later, and she notices that her husband is still asleep in the back seat of his car. She gets him out and walks them into their apartment. They stumble a few feet into it and fall on the floor together. They've been doing that a lot this episode, if you notice. At the beginning, when they're at the hotel, she falls off the bench. He comes and catches her. The truck thing revving up, they fall to the pavement there to avoid the truck. And now this, him being in a drunken stupor, too heavy, and they get a little off center and they go tumbling down. So he gets a text then because his phone falls out of his pocket, and we see on the screen that Park Jae is like, I'm sorry it's so late, but I want to let you know that we got confirmation that it is a 99.99% match. The voices are the same, so therefore he has the concrete proof that it's Hong Hee-joo that has been making these calls. But he doesn't see that, and neither does she. You know why? Because in her fall, she accidentally fell on top of him and is kissing him. Oh, that good old fall and kiss trope. I didn't particularly like it here. It just seemed too tropey. I guess just have to let it fly. It is whatever. But it takes her a while to move, and when she does, his eyes open to see her, and they stare at each other until the end of the episode. This episode I have described as a breadcrumb one, meaning that there was just enough to start putting toppings on this cake that is being made. We were already given little bits and pieces here and there of other things at play. Case in point, another piece that we do have in play here is the fact that Poxon's mother had to sacrifice privilege over motherhood and how she's resented the chairman for that. There was a whole lot of vitriol in that wine she spat on that screen. So I wouldn't be surprised if she's already started to set some fires inside her own house, figuratively speaking. And also, I think it's ironic that her being a former criminal psychologist, but her biological son is even beyond her own help. I guess the only thing she can kind of do is just rein him in a little bit. Because I'm sure he probably could have been a lot worse, been like a legit serial offer of people, but I don't know. That kind of, like, to me, puts her into play of possibly being also the puppet master, which sucks because I kind of like her. I kind of like her a little bit, but at the same time, like, I can't hate her if that's like why she came into place, because she is a mother wanting to protect her child. And sometimes your love for your child will never dim no matter what they do. And even still, Hongina is still a strong puppet master too for me. I mean, she did threaten Poxon with exposure of his family's secrets if they went through with the wedding. But the way she looked at him through the window of the clothing store, it makes me wonder, what does she truly want from him? And her reaching out to Hong Hee-ju after all this time just seems like a manipulation tactic. Like she might use her sister always being the one to bend to her will and doing everything she says at her own whim, that she would step down from this marriage. She was always supposed to be the one to marry Poxon. And she also could be one of those people where she's like, I don't want you happy either. You're nothing. You're insignificant. You shouldn't be this happy. But she focused not on her sister. She focused on Poxon. So it makes me wonder why. And we also don't know quite what their dynamics were growing up between just the two of them. But yet you can't dismiss the way Hong Hee-ju acted. It seemed like she was still traumatized. And it could be just based off of how she was treated, that she was not a human but merely a tool to be utilized. She was put in the box and she doesn't want to be put back in it. The problem with Hong Yi-na also, it seems like that they had coddled her way too much, where she didn't learn anything on her own. But she was able to go off for all these past 3 years. And also prior to that, because it doesn't seem like Hong Hee-ju and her went to the same college together. At least that's what I'm assuming. But we don't know. But it seems that she can hear just fine. And there's no telling how long she could. When she went abroad, did she get some kind of special surgery to where she could hear? I don't know. But it makes me wonder now if she can talk. But the main cake we got to feast on is our couple having some moments here that are building their romantic relationship, even if there are still lies in the batter. But then again, the lies were still in the recipe when we were making this cake originally. So the cake, regardless of that, will still taste good. It will still turn out okay. But I love how brash he could be with so many things and aspects to their relationship. But the one thing he never does in this episode is confront her with the video of her talking. I mean, the man literally has proof in the palm of his hand, but he doesn't show her that. He prompts, pleads, and even threatens her to talk, but he's still putting the ball in her court. I just love that he's still abiding his time of where he's just like, I want you to talk to me on your own accord, for you to tell me openly when you're ready to. He's not quite pushing her yet. And the combination of waiting her out and them kissing and being lovey-dovey at the end, it changes things so much for them again. So with him getting the confirmation waiting on his phone from Park Yoo-jae that this is Hong Hee-ju that's been talking to him, and also how, like I said, he's been reticent about confronting her with this proof that he already has, I think he's just gonna keep playing along. And now that they're about to go on this retreat where he has all this knowledge, he will make sure that he will try and get nothing but closer to his wife. And also the suss out of like, okay, so you've been wanting me to let go of you. Why? And it's time for him also to open up with his feelings. So I've been so tempted to watch the first bit of the next episode to see how he'll react to being kissed, if he remembers it at all. But I've been good so far. I do not start watching the next episode until I've officially uploaded the latest recap. So I'm going to keep to that same honor system as best as I can. But again, I am so sorry for yapping y'all's ear off, but this series is so good. I love all the Easter eggs I've been able to see and catch. I've loved the acting choices, especially, like I said, from Young Young-suk in this episode, especially in that quote-unquote confrontation scene. I've really loved the whole entire aspect of this episode. Very well acted. So I can't wait to get into episode 6. So please like and subscribe. Please stay a while. Let me know what your impressions have been up to this point to episode 5. I've given you mine, but hey, it's just a thought.